got my great-grandfather's stone here in loving memory of Arthur, the dearly loved husband of Annie Clamp, who died September 19th, 1918, aged 34 years. To have, to love, to lose, and when God wills, to find. So Arthur's buried here, but Annie is also buried here, but you actually have to dig down. The stone, I think, with the weight is sunk. And you can see it inscribed here as well, in amongst the grass. Annie died November 30th, 1960. The tragedy for Annie was not just losing Arthur, though. Their daughter died just 6 years after him. She was only 12, and you can see that inscribed on this side here. And their son, George, who died much later, is also buried here, and his details are written on this side. Well, I think the thing to remember, back in those days when he played, Notts County was one of the biggest clubs in the country. They were the old Premier League, they were the First Division club, and he was a well-known player there. He played against the very best players in his day. He lost his life young, only 34 years old, right at the end of the First World War. He'd only been out there for a few days when he picked up this terrible injury. I think it was from shrapnel. He was brought back to England, but sadly died of his injuries. The way they had to live in the trenches and the battlefront, you just can't picture it. And as you say, he was a footballer, so he'd have had a decent life back here. I don't think there were millionaires in those days, but comfortable and a fun job. Someone who went from a life that was, surrounded by a great family, doing a job he loved, playing sport all the time, to suddenly face the horrors of the First World War. Try as I might, I actually cannot picture how awful it would have been. And when he died, there was a procession through the city of Nottingham for his funeral, and people lined the streets to remember him. I think it's hugely important to remember them. The First World War seems a long, long way away, so we mustn't forget the sacrifices these people made.